Okay, let's go to the federal election campaign now, which is entering its third day, and get an update from our reporters on the ground. Stephanie Boris is following the Prime Minister in Sydney. Tom Lowry is with Anthony Albanese in Melbourne. Good morning both. Steph, starting with you, tell us about George Christensen not bowing out of politics. He's swapping parties.
Yeah, well, it was last year, Michael, that George Christensen announced he was leaving politics. He holds the seat of Dawson in central Queensland. And just the other week even, he said he was bowing out of the Liberal National Party, citing key policy differences, such as the fact he doesn't support reaching net zero emissions by 2050, he doesn't support vaccine mandates, and he's been heavily critical of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But confirmation today that he's joining Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party. The question is whether he'll run in the lower or upper house. At the moment, in the seat of Dawson where he is, there is a One Nation candidate. Of course, she could be pushed aside if Pauline Hanson decides to do so. And that then could actually cause quite a problem for the government. The government cannot afford to lose any seats at this federal election. And Mr Christensen at the moment holds that seat by a margin of 14.6%, so it's incredibly safe. And coalition members believe the large swing that he had at the last election was more due to him as a personality and being popular rather than the party that he was running for. So whether then votes would go to him instead of the government is yet to be seen. But as I mentioned though, we aren't yet sure exactly where he's running. That's being announced in a press conference later this morning.
And Steph, last night a Labor supporter gate-crashed media drinks the Prime Minister was hosting for the travelling media pack there in Sydney. Here's a bit of the exchange.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, this is the media. I'm hosting some drinks for the media event.
I just want to ask you a question.
Sorry, what's going on?
ScoMo, across the river here, across the Nepean River, people lost their houses, and they were burnt. You're a disgrace. You are a disgrace.
OK, Steph, tell us what happened.
Yeah, Michael, so I was at that event last night. On every election campaign, it is usual for leaders of both political parties to host private events for the media of an evening. So it was just the media that was there last night. However, this man, who we later found out is a Labor supporter, gate-crashed the event. You saw the footage just then of him yelling at the Prime Minister. We then saw the Prime Minister's security escort him out of the venue. New South Wales Police were also called. He was issued with a move on notice, i.e. please leave this premises. He complied with that. Taking a look at the man's social media posts, not only is he a Labor supporter, he also encourages people to join the Labor Party. In the 2019 election campaign, he handed out flyers encouraging people to vote for Susan Templeman, who is the Labor member for Macquarie, which is close by to here. And he was talking last night to Mr Morrison, or yelling at Mr Morrison, about the government's response to the bushfires. Now, it is interesting to sort of look at how the election campaign is being run by both political parties. At the moment, on the Liberal side, so far, all the events that we've attended have been either at businesses or charities, so they're controlled in the sense of who Mr Morrison is engaging with, and we're yet to see any street walks or pub nights, but we still have a number of weeks left to go in this campaign. We do know that Mr Morrison today is keen to focus on fuel security, talking about a $250 million investment for oil refineries both in Victoria and Queensland.
Steph, thank you. Tom Lowry in Melbourne. Labor has confirmed it's not going to review the job seeker payment if it does win power.
Yeah, good morning, Michael. This was a policy that Labor took to the last election in 2019 to review the rate of job seeker with an eye to raising it. It's currently around about $640 a fortnight. It was raised by $50 a fortnight during the coronavirus pandemic, and that's a permanent lift that Labor is taking some credit for, saying they were pushing the government to instill a permanent rise. But that is where it's going to stay, because Labor has dropped that policy for this election campaign. And it's already copping a little bit of criticism for doing so from the Greens politically. They're saying that they've condemned this. The Anti-Poverty Centre, a social welfare group, has also called it a devastating blow. But Labor says it simply needs to prioritise other key policies. In areas like social and affordable housing, it's committed to build many more of those sorts of homes if elected, and also in areas like education and healthcare too. The Shadow Finance Minister, Katy Gallagher, was questioned on this yesterday and says, given the difficult position the budget's in, they've had to make these very difficult choices.
We do have to be, I think, responsible in how we're looking at the budget. And look, we are going to inherit the worst set of budget books that any incoming government would have ever inherited. So we do have to accept that the investments we make, the additional investments we make, have to be carefully thought through, and they have been. And that's why our policies, that we've already announced are going to those areas.
And Tom, today Anthony Albanese, the Labor leader, will announce a pretty big health promise.
Yeah, the campaign today is starting the day in Melbourne. It's the first full day sort of in Victoria. There's a fairly significant policy on the healthcare front. Labor has tried to make healthcare a bit of a focus for the start of the campaign with mixed success. They're going to build 50 urgent care centres around the country as part of a trial program, if elected, at a cost of about $135 million over 4 years. Now, this is modelled off a New Zealand system where you have doctors and nurses working in these centres. They're open from sort of early in the morning to fairly late at night, and aimed at taking pressure off emergency departments and off GPs as well. They will be entirely bulk billed too. Labor says if this does work, if this is successful, they want to expand the program even further around the country. Making it easier to see the doctor is one of Labor's sort of real foundation sort of campaign pledges, and this is, I suppose, a practical commitment that goes some way to doing that.
Tom Lowry, Stephanie Boris, thank you both for the updates.